Welcome to SEC Sports Roundtable. This is your host, Shane Bailey, coming to you from our roundtable at an undisclosed location in Nashville, Tennessee. I have with me a full roundtable. Got with me Drew across from the table from me. Did you find some humor in that, Drew?
Shane, I feel like you're really excited. Did Kentucky do good this weekend?
Oh, you know, we had Big Blue Madness.
Y'all beat by?
Yeah, we beat by. We're getting healthy. You know, that's what you do on a bye week is you get healthy. It's amazing that we had the luck to have a bye week on the same week as Big Blue Madness.
Yeah, I'm sure that was coincidence.
Yeah, I don't know who made the schedule, but there was a lot. Mitch Barnhart had a lot to say with that, I believe. So a lot to look forward to in the land of bluegrass. But we're going to save that because we're really going to focus on football right now. But it's in the evening, and to stay awake, I've got a little extra coffee, so I'm going on the evening coffee. So a little caffeine's going through the blood system, and I'm just feeling good.
A little Irish coffee there, or?
A little Irish whiskey,
yeah.
A little to top it off. You know, if I didn't have to drive home, that sounds like a winner. But it's a late night, and these country roads out in Nashville can cause a lot of havoc with deer, so I'm going to stay away from that tonight. So, Drew, how are you?
Doing wonderful. Tennessee lost again. This is fun. Love college football when my favorite team is in the doldrums of its worst run in the history of its program. So, doing well, Shane.
Well, I love your tweet that you sent out. You're ready to give up football and start being a movie reviewer.
Yeah, clearly anybody that listens to this podcast probably not listening for the sports knowledge. They're listening for the movie reviews, and unfortunately I didn't see any new movies, but if anybody wants to send 1050 my way, I'll happily go see Rock'em Sock'em Robots or Footloose 2 or Dolphin Tale. So those are some wonderful movies that are out there, so send me some cash and I'm happy to review it for you.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can get that arranged for you. Get you a movie sponsor. Chad, welcome. It's been a few weeks, months, whatever. You've been a while since you've been in the seat, so welcome aboard again. Thanks.
Shane, it's great to be back. Tough loss for the Doors yesterday, but got to get over and get ready to go this week.
Well, I tweeted out. I don't know if you saw the tweet, but I was downtown Nashville in the afternoon early, and there was a ton of red and black just everywhere, just already invading the restaurants. And you couldn't attest to how much was probably in the stands, but when they're out and forth like that at lunch.
Well, hold on. You're telling me that Vanderbilt allowed another team to come in and kind of take over the stadium a little bit?
Can you believe that?
I mean, Georgia's one of those programs that has fans that travel well, and it's going to take a while before Vandy can fill that place with its own fans.
Yeah, it just never bodes well when you've got a 6 o'clock kickoff, and everywhere I turn is red and black, and there's no gold in that black either.
I'm just trying to get you because I feel bad that Vanderbilt played Georgia better than Tennessee did. So,
well, Vanderbilt's better than Tennessee right now.
All right,
we'll see that pretty soon. Couple weeks, 3 weeks.
Brett, do you agree with that?
I'm going to reserve judgment, but no way, not until I see it happen on the field. Well,
that fourth voice is Brett Young. So welcome, Brett.
Hey, Shane, glad to be back. Drew, Chad, you guys doing well this week?
Not too bad, Brett. Not too bad.
I was gonna, follow up with Drew. I mean, obviously, me and Drew being Tennessee fans, he stole my thunder with the Tennessee intro. I do want to give a quick apology to my Vols. For the first time in my gambling life, I went against the Volunteers this week, and obviously ended up being a good thing as LSU beat them by 31. So I do want to give out an apology. In literally however many hundreds of games we've picked, I've never picked against Tennessee, and again, a smart pick, but one that hurt me a little bit. But just let you know where the state of the volunteer program is right now, Shane.
It does pain you to have to go against your team, doesn't it?
It was rough. I felt like I'd let them down, but again, I got the win, so I guess I should be happy with that.
Well, we'll get right into a couple things. Our normal thing is trying to go tell you where to go, and that's SECSportsRoundtable.com. That's a great way to see some updated posts from us. The podcasts are on iTunes. Go out there, subscribe to iTunes. It's going to be there every time we do a podcast. With our scheduling and stuff, you never know when we're actually going to be able to record this. Today it's Sunday. Sometimes it's Monday. With the schedule this week, it might end up being Tuesday next week. We try to get it as early as possible, but we can't always do that with the schedule. So we want to throw that out there. Just subscribe to us on iTunes, and it's always going to be there. If you don't have iTunes or you have an Android phone and you want an easy way to get to us, another easy way is Spotify. Another great way, all you got to do there is you can subscribe as well or stream and listen to it that way. So if you're on the road a lot, I know a lot of people listen to sports radio when they're in their car driving between sales calls or different things like that. If they do deliveries, different things like that is a great way to listen to this podcast. So go on there, stream it, download it, like us on Facebook at SECSportsRoundtable.com. We try to throw out some polls, try to get you guys involved and see what you guys think. So that can help us know what you want us to talk about as well. So, interact with us on those things. Also on Twitter, SECSRT. That's our Twitter handle. And then we're going to go straight into the news now. We've talked a little bit about who we are. Thank you all for listening, too. I don't think we've said that quite enough. We were looking at some stats, and there's actually a few of you out there that are listening, so our listenership is starting to grow, and thank you so much for doing that. We're also on YouTube. We've got a little YouTube channel out there. If you want to watch the video of this, maybe you can't get the podcast at work, but you can stream. YouTube might be another way to watch us. So we try to put out as many ways as possible to watch us, but we're going to get right into the news here. I guess we're going to talk about injuries. That's really what's one of the headlines as far as news this week. And
there's a big one, Shane.
Yeah, there is. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I can get it jump started. Maybe not the number one player in the league. I think that's still Trent Richardson, but one of the top players in the league, Marcus Lattimore, tough news, out for the season with a knee. Was it MCL and ACL, or was that just a?
I'm not sure they.
Do we know that yet?
I don't think they said ACL. I think it was just a.
But they said out for the year.
Yes,
so
but they've already said he's out for the year.
It didn't look good. Watching that game, I saw him in a full cast walking off the field, and you just don't like to see that, and that's tough. The East is so wide open right now. With I just don't think that there's a premier team at all. I think there are three pretty good teams, and then one or two teams that can beat you on a given day. But it's still up in the air with Georgia having the easiest road now, and South Carolina and Florida with their troubles with injuries. But no, I think that's tough. I mean, the one thing that South Carolina had going for them on offense was Lattimore, and Connor Shaw back there. Without him to rely on, I think it just makes his job much tougher. So, bad news for the Gamecocks.
I'll give the reference here. The independentmail.com, that's from in Anderson, South Carolina, had some quotes about it. Lattimore's knee is going to be in a cast for 3 weeks, and then surgery is going to be performed. So he's definitely out. Spur expects him to come back next year. But he said our worst fears were realized. That's Spurrier's quote to lead the news off out in Gamecock land. So it's definitely not good news there for South Carolina. I think you alluded to it. The East is wide open. And at the beginning of the season, everybody considered South Carolina as the front runner of this, and that door is wide open at this point, and you don't know who's going to come away the winner now, especially.
Yeah, I mean, great news. They got a win this last week in a close game that we'll talk about when we said Spurrier purposely not covering the spread in that game. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, I think you got to look at this as a huge blow for South Carolina. I'm sure they'd rather have lost and still had Lattimore than vice versa. So. Brett, what do you think?
One thing I want to touch on, and I don't remember where I saw it this morning, but the comment was made about when you look at some of the differences with these kids, the ability to, play the sport you play as a profession, and obviously in college football, you got to be three years removed from high school before you can go to the NFL. So you're either, after your junior year, or if you do red shirt, you see some cases where kids go after their sophomore year. Basketball's now gone to the 1 year period where you see some of these one and dones, they call them now in basketball. Baseball, sign out of high school, or if you go to college, then you've got that 3 year period. But I guess the question was posed that Marcus Lattimore, after his freshman year of college, would have been a first round pick. South Carolina. Obviously, if I'm a South Carolina fan, I'm excited to see the guy get 30. I mean, this was a guy that was getting 35 and 40 carries a game, and I guess you just wonder now. And hopefully, this is a situation where this kid comes back, and whether it goes. Was this just his sophomore year? I guess.
It's his sophomore year.
All right, so he's obviously got to come back for one more year, but. I don't know. I know it brings up just a totally different question than what we started off with, but it just made me think a little bit. I mean, I don't know where y'all stand on that and just the whole going pro in general concept in sports. But, here's a kid that very few times in football can you say that, but could have been a kid definitely ready for the pros after his freshman year, but is carrying the ball 35 and 40 times a game in college, and you just never know with that knee injury now. Is he going to be the same back coming back? Is he going to be 75% of what he was, or is he never going to have that same breakaway ability? So just kind of want to throw that out there and see what you guys thought about that.
Well, one thing you think about with running backs, especially in the NFL, and you're talking about the next level, is that position has changed so much in the last 7-8 years. You've gone to a two-back system. There's so much abuse and wear and tear on those individuals that their longevity's not there. You're not going to see them in the NFL for 12, 15, 18 years like you're going to see some offensive lineman or a quarterback or some of the other positions or even wide receiver. So they take a ton of abuse. And they take on a lot of risk. I mean, you saw here one play, and he might not be the same individual. He's cost himself possibly millions and millions of dollars. And the only person that benefits from this right now is South Carolina, because they're there. You give me a weird look there.
I don't think I can't. I mean,
not
unless
from
you're saying
not from
the
the
only person
injury.
that benefits from that rule is the college.
Yes, not from the injury, but the NCAA, the teams they're the only ones that benefit from this because he's strapped to be in an institution for 3 years. If he sets out 2 of those years, there's a good chance he's not going to make the money he needs to on the front end being a high draft choice. So he's got to play in the NCAA. So, I mean, it's a broken system, and we've talked a little bit about that system. I don't know what it's going to take to fix that, but, that's one of the issues that you have is that you've got to, pay your dues, kind of speak, and play those 3 years.
Right. And Chad, you want to jump in here? One more thing is I brought this up, and honestly don't even know where I stand on it. I mean, I know a lot of times I get frustrated watching the NBA draft where these 18 and 19 or 19-year-olds now, I guess, are getting picked, and I don't think they're ready for the league. But you look at it from the player standpoint, it's just one of the few areas in life in general that somebody else is dictating when you can go make a living. And I don't know the answer to it. I'm not exactly sure what the proper response is, but my point would be if Marcus Lattimore was ready to get in the pros and make money, and I'm not sure why the NCAA has any right to tell him he can't do it.
Well,
or the NFL, for that matter. Maybe, I don't know. Chad, what do you think?
For every one Lattimore, you got 50 other guys with somebody in their ear telling them they can go play in the NFL. So if you say you got to go to college for, let's say football went the same thing as basketball, went the 1-year rule, then you got a kid playing September through December football and not going to class the second semester and because somebody's in his ear telling him he's going to go to the NFL draft. So Lattimore may be ready, but some other people aren't going to be, and they're going to be told they are, and they're going to be making a life-changing mistake.
And there's a different dynamic. As a whole, you're right. You talk about Lattimore. There are not many football players that are ready to go in the NFL just from a physical standpoint after 1 year versus basketball. Clearly, we know that LeBron James did not need to step 1 foot on a university. He was one of the top 10 players in the NBA the day he stepped foot on the court. I mean, I think it's tough. I mean, it's a good thing you're there for 3 years. You're getting at least 3 years of an education. A lot of these guys are graduating in 3 years now because they're there all the summer. They're taking classes during all the summer terms. There's a lot there, and there's a lot of things that you may be ready for, but there's a reason you can't do it. I mean, there are probably a lot of 14-year-olds that can drive a car, but they're not allowed to do it till they're 16. There's a lot of young ladies that want to be strippers or adult movie stars, and they can't do that till they're 18. So, there's a lot of different industries that out there that have the rules and regulations on them. So, it's just I selfishly, as a college sports fan and a podcaster about the SEC, I hope they make everybody go to school. It makes college sports better.
The last thing I'm going to say is I think that baseball does it right. If you choose to go to college, you got to stay in there 3 years. Okay, so if you put that rule in for basketball and football, then you're not letting the school is not taking a guy for 1 year and they know that he's only going to be there 1 year. It's easy on the coach on recruiting purposes because John Calipari, Kentucky recruits 6 guys a year that go in the first round. He has to do it every year.
I agree, Chad. I like that rule in baseball.
That is a good rule. Well, I think the other injury news, we went way off topic there, I think, a little bit.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. That's what we're here for. These podcasts have no finite amount of time that we do it, so we're going to do it as long as we wish to talk. So the nice thing about it is if people don't like what we're saying, they don't have to listen.
Is there a fast forward button on the podcast? I believe there is, isn't there? Hopefully they'll keep listening. But
well, I know on iTunes you can listen in double speed, so that you can hear our voices twice as fast. I don't know if that's worth it or not. But the Ole Miss had a couple of defensive players go down with some injuries. Both of them seniors. Wayne Dorsey, the defensive end, and Marcus Temple was their cornerback. Two injuries there on a decimated team that's not performing well as it is. So that's only going to make things, I think, worse for Houston Nutt, and might even just make his stay even shorter there. I don't know how short that leash is down in Oxford, but I don't think they're going to have a lot of sympathy for a man that's got some injuries on his team.
That's just that is exactly what you said. That's not a very good football team. Personally, I've heard of Dorsey. I don't know the other guy. You never want to see injuries, and it definitely hurts a team like that. But I don't know if they're going anywhere anyway. So
yeah,
they probably played too much of the season too for a medical red shirt at this point. So
right, and I made a comment a couple of weeks ago when right before the Ole Miss Georgia game. My prediction did not come true. I mean, if you remember, I predicted one of those two coaches would be fired within the week, and they've both. Obviously, Georgia's about to win the East, I think, and Ole Miss is still awful. But and I think in a minute we're going to hit on these BCS standings. I don't see Ole Miss in there, and even without these two guys, I believe they're. It's a tough year for Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a pretty rough football team, pretty bad football team, and losing two of their better players is not going to bode well for them the rest of the year.
I don't know how much of your projections are going besides your picks are unbelievable right now. Guys, go on to www.SECSRT for no other reason than to look at the weekly picks. Brett Young is on just a monstrous record right now. I mean, he's 20 games above 500. I mean, he could pay for your kids' college tuition if you just pick the teams he picks.
You're going to jinx me.
Now
right
that being said,
trip,
yeah,
now.
well, come on, you know that you're not going to win in Vegas. Just skip this 1 week while we're in Vegas because it's not going to win, or just pick the opposite. What you think? But your breakout player, Randall Mackey, having a wonderful season for Ole Miss. At least he's playing now.
Well, he is the starter, isn't he? At least.
Yeah.
So I did pick a breakout player that's actually playing, but. I don't know what else there really is to say about Ole Miss. They're not very good, and I think they're looking for Thanksgiving and Christmas just to for the end of their schedule more than anything else. And it's a rough year. I don't think Houston Nutt survives, but losing those two guys, the injury's not helping their cause, no doubt.
Yeah, seeing Ole Miss when they came to Vandy a couple weeks ago, and I mean, Vanderbilt just took them behind the woodshed. That just looked like a disinterested football team.
How many times have you got to say Vanderbilt took someone behind the woodshed?
Speaking about football,
we took Elon behind the woodshed.
That's in the SEC.
Not meantime. So when it happens, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Talking to some Ole Miss fans that I know, they think that Houston Nutt probably won't last, but they said the buyout's $4 million, and they act like that's a lot of money. You get a bunch of big donors from Ole Miss. I'm sure they can come up with that within a couple hours. So.
Well, Mr. Toohey himself can drop a check for that, could he not?
Yeah, I just don't see them keeping him.
Sandra Bullock, write that check, get him out of there.
Just buy another player, bring him into Ole Miss, adopt a player off the street that's a good football player, and get him in there.
You're just upset that they blindsided UT.
Yeah,
that's where they got the title for the story, isn't
I'm
it?
the only guy that can watch The Blind Side, which was a fairly decent movie. I mean, if you like sports, and the whole time I'm sitting there going, that guy should have gone to Tennessee. These rotten people over there taking him in and keeping him from Tennessee. Well, he's probably been in jail or something if he.
Fulmer closed the deal on that one.
Yeah,
I think
Fulmer had
Fulmer
great acting.
He was up for an Academy Award in that show, wasn't he?
I'm here to see O'Hare. That guy looks good. You need to run through the tee. Fulmer, yeah.
I thought that was really well acted by those SEC coaches there. That was quality stuff, man.
You know, Ed Orgeron in there.
I'm gonna go in out here. You're gonna play the football out. Yeah, that's a good movie.
So see, we did get a movie pick in there.
We'll get some more stuff in there. Let's get talked about some BCS standing.
Well, let's do that. I think if you're going to get this first thing tomorrow, we're going to get this uploaded. The BCS standings did come out tonight. We're recording this Sunday evening, and I think a little surprise from the prognosticators, if I can get that. Wow, LSU came out on top. With I think originally everybody was saying Oklahoma had a really good shot to be number one there. but they dropped to number 3 in the power rankings on the BCS, the all-important BCS standings.
I think the important thing is the two teams we've been touting all year. BCS might actually have something right for the first time. LSU number 1, Alabama number 2. Even got Arkansas in there at number 9, South Carolina 14. Any other teams from the SEC? Auburn's in there at 20. So is that 5 teams representing the SEC and the BCS?
In the top 20.
That's about right.
And there's 5 teams in the SEC on the USA Top 25 as well. So, I mean, it's...
And as Brett said, I really think, that unfortunately ESPN only does the top 25. I think Tennessee's probably right in there, number 26.
Yeah.
I would think so. The 0-3 conference mark probably knocked them down a little bit.
I know we've kind of gone off subject, but I'm calling this. This hadn't been said beforehand. Usually we talk about what we're going to speak about, but I'm blindsiding. Speaking of blindsiding, Shane and Chad here. Shane, you had a couple tweets this weekend. No bones about it. You're not a Tennessee fan. I just want to know what's with all the hate, man. The hate in the heart. Just you had pleasure in that loss, didn't you?
I did. Well, not so much in the loss, and that there's actual Tennessee fans at the stadium that are, about ready to cry in their hands because they got beat. What did you expect? It was LSU. The BCS standings are right there on paper. You see UT nowhere to be found on that paper. You see LSU at the very top, and then you have and you have to admit to yourself, you're tweeting back saying, well, if we had this, and this to happen.
You never know, man.
But those things aren't happening, and you got to play with the players that you have on your team today, not the players that are injured or got kicked off or whatever the situation is. You have to play in the now, and right now, UT's not the team that they were at the beginning of the season.
That's not what I'm talking about, Shane. I need honest time. Were you tweeting that more because you hate unrealistic fans or you hate the University of Tennessee?
A little of both.
Yeah.
A lot of both, I guess. But, to see that guy on there, and it was CBS, I thank you so much for showing that shot. This guy was about ready to cry. He was totally...
He might have had money on the game. You never know.
Well, it could have been, and I feel sorry if he took the spread, but... he was literally just heartbroken that you were getting beat. And
Chad, I want you to chime in on this because I've heard these are actual quotes, I believe, from you. There have been times that you say that you'd rather have Tennessee lose than Vanderbilt win.
That is definitely,
and
I've
also,
never said that.
and you did say
I
this.
I have
that
said that.
If you were in trouble, you wouldn't accept help from Bruce Pearl. Like if you were in a burning car or something.
That is true. And I also have said if Tennessee was somehow in the Armed Forces Iraqi Bowl against the Taliban, then I would cheer for the Taliban.
So what's tell me the hatred for Tennessee? Where's it come from?
It's I just don't like the fans, their players. They're just thugs. I just can't stand them.
So is it? I think a lot of it has to do with the color orange. That is a very
Plus, I went to the Vandy, Tennessee game when I was probably 12 and in Knoxville, and this guy behind me was clapping in my ear the whole time and just was a jerk.
Yeah, okay. I accept that. If you had a bad personal experience, I just want to let you know that. Yeah, good thing you moved away from the mic on that. But just want to let you know that the Tennessee bandwagon will always be open for you to watch us when rooting us for a national championship.
Let me go ahead
3 or 4 years.
and say that I have been careful about what I've been tweeting about because I've been trying to.
Clean it up.
Some people are still not talking to me because I talk bad about Tennessee. So
well, here's one of the things my wife has posed to me. It's like, what happens if my daughter or my son now happens to be smart enough and they get a scholarship to UT, and that's where they get their scholarship?
That will not happen.
It's like
for my daughter.
I am.
not saying she can't get a scholarship. She will not go there.
That's a major fear
Poor
for me.
parenting, Chad. Poor parenting.
Well, Shane's different. Shane, if somebody's going to pay for college, Shane will throw on that orange T-shirt in a second. So.
I will totally. I will have to. I won't wear the. I won't be running out and doing the T or anything like that at halftime. But I'm going to support my kids, and at that point, I'm going to have to learn to love orange outside of hunting season.
Well,
so
I like that answer, Shane. I give you an A. Chad, I give you an F. You got hate in your heart. Let it out.
Well, guys, jumping back to the BCS, Drew was the king tonight of getting us off. Actually, I got us off the first time, but off the subject. I think I hate the BCS first of all because only thing I think the BCS would be good for is I could slot these first 16 into the playoff here in 1st of December, but it's correct right now. I wrote on my paper here as we were starting that I really think LSU and Alabama are two of the best teams I've seen in college football in the last 10 or 12 years. and LSU being 1, Alabama being 2. The only thing I hate is November 5th. One of them's going to lose. They're going to drop down probably 4th or 5th, and I'd love to see some miracle happen where that one that got beat snuck back up into 2. The other one go win the SEC championship. And they just play a rematch in the championship game for the whole thing.
Well, if you want to look at it, 3 and 4 they play each other the first week of December. Oklahoma State. So both of them, if they continue their ways, one of them is going to have to lose. And being that late in the season, that's going to hurt them considerably because then they're not going to be able to play the championship game. There is a championship game now in the Big 12, correct? Did they get rid of it?
There's not one.
There's not
There's
one.
not one in the Big 12 now?
Oh, Big 12?
There's 9 teams, but
I can't keep up with it because
Yeah,
the Big 12 has 10 teams. The Big 10 has 12
Big
teams. I
Big
think
10
they'll
has
have
a
to switch.
playoff now.
Don't you think they should have to switch?
I don't think the Big 12 has a playoff this year. It has a championship game. 'Cause
You have to have 12 teams to do it.
Well, they only have.
They can't do it.
So
I think y'all are missing a great point for me. I think they should just switch the conference names. The Big 12 has 10 teams. The Big 10 has 12. It's stupid. I think y'all should ban them from the conference.
they can't. They're not going to switch because they're just going to go to 16 next year. So.
The Big Legends 16. Or leaders? Who's the better conference? I mean, they should right there. Those conferences should be
it's the
$5
leaders.
billion.
So back on topic again. We've got LSU, Alabama are going to have to play each other. So if things keep going the way they're going, one of them's going to have to drop out, and then you're looking at potentially the national championship game coming from one of those two teams. Then you have Oklahoma State. One of those is going to drop out. So now you're looking at is Boise State going to be strong enough to keep moving up? Or is Wisconsin?
I'm telling you, I think you're missing a team. I think Wisconsin, although it's tough. I mean, they're not getting the respect from the computer rankings.
Who else do they have? What do they have upcoming? Do they have a tough schedule coming up?
They don't. That's the bad thing is that they don't. The Big Ten is fairly weak, and I don't think they have a super tough schedule. I'm pulling it up right now. They've got this is a big one, Michigan State, and then they play a couple ranked teams, but it's Illinois and Penn State. I mean, nothing just super, super tough, and they're a good team. I've watched them play.
Yeah.
They just haven't had that tough of a schedule. Their one tough game was against number 8 Nebraska, and they won that game 48-17. But if the computers would rather see a Boise State, they can absolutely affect the outcome of the BCS. So,
well, the thing about Wisconsin is they're going to have an extra game in front of the whole world to see. If they put on a good show in the Big Ten championship game, they can get voted high, and they can probably move up to number 2 and play for the national championship.
And I'm pulling up Clemson's schedule. They've got South Carolina as their last game, but they've also got Georgia Tech. That's the only 2 big obstacles they have in front of them because they've got Maryland. They just beat Maryland. They got North Carolina, Wake Forest, North Carolina State are their other 3 games besides Georgia Tech and South Carolina, and that's a team that's really surprised me. I mean, they've had to come from behind. I don't know how many times, but it seems like the last 2 or 3 times I've watched them, you put them out, and then all of a sudden, midway through the third quarter comes, and they're a whole different team, and they start running up the points and getting back into the ball game on them.
Yeah, Clemson's going to score. I still say LSU and Alabama's defenses, they're just it's a joke how good they are, and Clemson's a good team. You put Clemson against, again, here we are, SEC homers, but I think Alabama boat races Clemson. Same thing with LSU. So, allow me just, this is the night of going off on tangents. This one will be pretty close to what we're talking about. But, I know it's not going to happen, but, again, to me, a college football playoff would be the most unbelievable little tournament in the history of tournaments. And, I know 1AA does 16 teams. I don't think if it ever does get to that, I don't think you'll see a 16 team. But, just glance at that list. Those top 8 teams in the BCS right now are undefeated. And, imagine if we're sitting here talking about, okay, and, in round 1, Stanford goes to LSU, Clemson goes to Alabama, Wisconsin at Oklahoma, Boise State at Oklahoma State. That's just – I just don't even know what I would do. I'd take the entire week off of work and just get my bonus room ready to watch all the games. It'd just be so awesome. But I'm just coming to believe it's not going to happen because, Granddaddy said we got to keep going to the Rose Bowl, and it's just not going to happen.
Here's the thing that changes that is that with all this conference realignment going on, the NCAA, who is basically helping push the bowls with the BCS is becoming less of a power. So the conferences themselves are going to start to have more power. And what's going to bring more revenue in their pockets? If they can make a playoff work where they can get more money. And if you look at the deals that ESPN's throwing out money-wise, they're not afraid to just throw ridiculous money at these conferences, and they're willing to listen. I mean, you're hearing the Big East rumors up there. Was it last week or the week before where, some of that movement was based on what ESPN was recommending them do. Now, I don't know how much truth there was to that. You just saw the articles, and I got to believe that he who has the money makes the rules, and ESPN likes to control things. I mean, they like to control their information. I don't see
control the Heisman.
Yeah, I mean,
right, Drew.
Yeah,
that's a very plausible theory that could be true. Now, nobody's going to admit that really happened, but that's a likely scenario. So if ESPN and ABC, they've got deep pockets, are they willing to pony up and throw out some ridiculous cash? Now all of a sudden, these conferences have a different ear than they did, 2 years ago with the BCS. Because does that not come up for renewal next year? Is 2013 or 2012 or 2013?
I think they said on game day that there's something after this year that they'll talk about, like maybe adding a +1 or something to the BCS, but I don't think we're going to see a playoff.
This is what kills me is I have a very strong opinion that, yes, I'd love to see a playoff, but it's kind of like, I listen to quite a bit of sports talk, and I just can't stand these issues like should we have a playoff in college football or steroids in sports, and there's just no solution, and you just talk about it over and over, and it just almost just makes me mad just to even talk about it. Clearly, everybody in the world except for about 9 university presidents wants there to be a playoff, and we can't get one for some reason, and I'd love to just, if I had to fight somebody to get a playoff, I'd do it. It's unbelievable that we can't. Because like you said, what Brett said, I mean, that's exactly what you need. I'd love a 16-team playoff if that's too much to ask. I want an 8.
Well, I don't think it's 9 university presidents. I think it's 7 or 8 bowl game presidents.
Why couldn't they tie it into the bowl? If they go to a 16-team playoff, 1 versus 16 in the Auto Parts Liberty Bowl.
There should be no reason. I mean, you have, 30 some odd bowls every year. There should be ample room to have.
They can have the bowl in that same city, too.
It could, except for logistics, if you've got the major bowls, you've got, East Coast, West Coast kind of stuff. So you have some logistics there to run through, but it's nothing that you can't do. I mean, look at the NCAA in basketball, how quickly they have to move and get things organized. It's a lot easier to do a 15-man basketball team than it is a 70-man football program, but it could happen.
And I know one of the points is when you've got a team playing potentially 3 games in 3 or 4 weeks, getting those fans to travel. But I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, if you've got an LSU team or Alabama team in the championship game, their fans are going to travel even if it's a third game in a row that they have to go to. And even if you don't, you're going to get people. That stadium's going to be full. It's not like you're going to have.
The locals would buy it. I mean, sure. If the Music City Bowl was one of those venues, think of how many local people here in the Nashville area would go just to watch the football game. It wouldn't matter if it was Stanford that was one of the teams that was playing. They would go just to be in that experience, and they would have the sellout. I don't think the travel would be a huge issue there as far as getting the seats filled.
No, I mean, pardon me, I say to hell with the bowls. I mean, there's one bowl game now that matters anyway. I mean, the BCS has basically made it where one bowl game matters, and that's the national championship. I mean, sure, if you're a TCU that got to the Rose Bowl a couple years back, I mean, or if you're, I don't know, but 90% of the bowl games are played at about 50% capacity. And it's to the point now where, I just I'm frustrated with the BCS for sure, I would 1AA. I know they're not going. I mean, I don't know why exactly I'm giving that as the analysis, but they play at the higher seed site all the way until the championship, and then there is one, there is a neutral site for the championship. But I don't know what the answer is. There's no perfect system. I just know that the bowl system, the BCS system's not the perfect system for crowning a national champion in football.
Well, let's get on to the games from Saturday, because I think we've covered enough of this. And right now we're going to go to a 2-hour podcast, and I don't think anybody has the time to listen to all of that. And our picks are so good. And Brett, we want to save time to let you brag a little bit at the end.
Absolutely. I'll try to keep it short tonight, though, because we're already rolling probably 45 minutes deep. So
well, it's all right. We're good. First up, we'll cover the SEC East games, the ones that are really, one's East-West, one's East. We're going to start with Georgia Vanderbilt.
Ooh, Sting Chad early.
Well, order of importance. Kentucky's not playing, so we don't have to go with them first.
Yeah, you don't start with them.
That's right. A good win for Rick.
Yeah, I mean, I think any win's a good win, and I know, Chad, you were at this game. I watched this game, and man, it's a tough one. I thought that Georgia kind of took control of the game when they were up 20-7 at the half, came out and kicked a field goal, and I thought this is where they're going to turn it on, and I don't think Vandy's as good of a team as Georgia by any measure. So I thought that this is where Vandy held tough for a little while, but they're gonna get beaten, and they came back. You tweeted it, Shane. They did what they had to do. They had a kick return for a touchdown. They score on a fake like a halfback pass. I mean, they brought out all the tricks and really put themselves in a chance to win it. Got down there. Jordan Rogers threw an interception, thought it was over, and they block a punt with 20 seconds left, and I'm watching it going, they're going to win this game. I mean, they're going to scoop this ball and win, and just the ghosts of Vanderbilt Dudley Stadium just tripped that guy scooping it, and then they had 2 plays from the 20. Should have caught a touchdown pass on the next play to the Boyd kid, and then the last play. I mean, it's tough. I mean, everybody knows what you're trying to do, and made a good effort to even complete a pass with a good pass rush. But just a tough. It went from you're okay with this loss because Vandy played well till the way it ends. I think it stings a little bit more when you think of what could have been with that punt block.
With the chances they had at the end of the game, they let one slip away. I mean, as a fan,
it's tough to say that.
Chad, is that how you would feel?
No.
Chad, here's the deal, though, man. You've got a good coach, and you talk about him all the time, and I agree. I understand what you're saying. You don't want to say you got let one slip away, but that was an opportunity. I mean, that a lot of other teams scoop that ball and win a game that Vandy doesn't normally win, and you look at the record book, and it's going to go down as another loss.
Right, but if you'd have told me before the game Vanderbilt would score 28 points, I'm going to tell you they're going to win the ball game. But last night I don't know if it's just a different scheme, it's like a different secondary out there. They were just, I mean, I think we have 2 pretty good corners, and they were looking in the backfield trying to get picks, and hell, they let people run down the sideline for touchdowns. But when you are out-talented, Georgia has a ton more talent than Vanderbilt does, and you have a chance to win the ball game in the last couple of minutes, then, I mean, that's pretty much all you can take right now. Now, the recruits he's bringing in, last night was – I've never seen so many big-time recruits at a Vanderbilt game than last night. That last night was their biggest recruiting day in years. And, we'll see what turns up of that. I don't know. They've already got supposedly 1 kid, offensive lineman, committed. They're hoping for a few more. But
point, though,
they got to narrow the talent gap.
When you're turning the program around, at what point, as a Vandy fan, do you just get pissed and say, "Man, we need to win one of these"? Let's. I mean, that's a season changer.
Well, at what point? I mean, we won 4 games the last 2 years. This year, they've won 3. I mean, hell.
I understand your point, but it's 30 years of ineptness, and this. If I was a Vanderbilt fan, I would be happy with the way they played and that they made it a game, but I'd be ticked off that they didn't. They had a chance to win it and they didn't do it. I guarantee you, James Franklin's upset.
James Franklin is upset, but he hadn't watched this crap for 50 years.
So you're saying you accept? I'm just trying.
So you accept the mediocrity?
It's not an overnight. It's not going to turn around overnight. I mean, it's going to take time.
Yeah, let me say this, and this is obviously coming from a non-Vanderbilt fan, but somebody that's lived in Middle Tennessee all 38 of my years. Look at Vandy this year. All right, obviously, first three games are 3 straight wins. You're fired up to be 3-0. All right. Nobody expected them, and I understand what you're saying, Drew, but you got to have that. When's that signature breakthrough win come? But they go to South Carolina, who we've kind of ripped. I know I have. I've been tough on South Carolina. They're ranked 12th in the nation. All right, and they lose 21-3, and just with a pitiful offense that night are in that ball game up until late in the game. Alabama would. I mean, they really wouldn't. But I mean, Alabama was good. I was going to say they'd beat an NFL team, and that's another argument that me and Drew love to go back and forth on. But just throw that one away. That's at Alabama, number 2 in the nation, and honestly, I think they're the best team in the nation. And then yes, I mean, so many times I've seen that block punt last night. It rolls 7 or 8 yards, takes this nice Sunday perfect hop up. Some guy catches it in stride, goes to the end zone. And obviously in a storybook way, that's what should have happened last night. It just didn't. And I see where you're coming from, Drew, that at some point, when's that win going to come? But also am going to agree with Chad in that that's still a 5-2 tied for the SEC lead East Georgia team who was on the ropes, had to survive against Vanderbilt. I don't think, and I'll admit, I mean, there's times I like to, me and Chad go back and forth as Tennessee Vandy fans, but I don't think it's the same old Vandy. Now, will they need to win a game eventually to do so? Sure, but again, I'm not trying to rub this in, Chad. We're talking about a team that, I mean, is probably one of the bottom 10 or 15 teams over the last 35 years in college football. And right now, they're not a 100th best team in the nation. Are they in the top 25? No. But I think you're looking at a team that I think is up into that definite top half of college football now.
I just think it's a different attitude that needs to be taken. Chad, I'll give you a compliment. You're the best Vandy fan I know. You're a young guy that goes and supports your team. You go to basketball games. You go to football games. You go to baseball games. You go to basketball practices. You went this weekend, correct? And it's just, I'm telling you, I understand what you're saying. It's not going to happen overnight, and I do believe that Vanderbilt is on the right track, but they've been on the right track a few times in the last 10 years when they
went to a lower level bowl game 3 years ago when they started out 5-0 and then lost 6 of 7, finished 6-6. I don't think they're on. And then they went 4-20 the last 2 years and their coach quit. And they fired another one.
And Shane, I know you want to jump in here. Here's what Vandy's got to do this year, in my opinion. If we're talking about turning that corner or doing, they got to beat Army this week, no doubt. If they lose to Army, then erase everything I just said. They're terrible. Get rid of Franklin and disband the program. All right, they got to win this weekend. It's pretty tough.
It's like a 9-point spread.
But then, I mean, and then you got to look at that schedule and say, Vandy this year, I think, has a realistic chance of getting to that 6 wins and winning a bowl game. They've got to beat Army. They got to beat Kentucky. They got to beat Tennessee or Wake Forest. They're not going to beat Florida at Florida. They're not going to beat Arkansas. But they can do that, and then you can. Okay, there's 1 year. Now, what if they do it again next year? Yes, they got to start rolling through a couple of these seasons, but they've got a chance this year to win, I'm telling you, 6 or 7 ball games.
Well, here's my point. Wouldn't it be nice to not only have those moral victories of playing better and getting some hype around the program and getting some good recruits, and couple that with winning some ball games and getting to a ball game?
Absolutely.
They can beat Tennessee this year. They absolutely can. They should not lose to Kentucky.
I know my attitude is a lot different than James Franklin. First thing James Franklin said after the game was they're not accepting moral victories. They're not even talking about it.
Agree.
But when you go to a game, when I go to a Vanderbilt game, there's some teams I know we're gonna get beat by. And last night when I went to the game, I was thinking, if we can just hang in a while, maybe pull something off the end. That's what they did. But we didn't pick up the block punt, and we couldn't score at the end, so we lost. I mean, it's just. I got a different mindset than him, luckily.
And I think there's a medium in there, and I don't think that you're just a ho-hum, I don't care. I'm sure you were very upset after the game. I know plenty of Vanderbilt fans that after they lose that game, they just go home and it doesn't affect them. I am an unreasonable Tennessee fan and thought that Tennessee had a good shot at beating LSU. I was that guy. I would have been in the stadium almost crying. So we running too long, Brett?
No, I thought you were just going to lead into the next game, so that was my signal. I apologize for.
No, but sorry, didn't know how long we were talking on this.
As long as we want.
Yeah, I just thought I'm just. You know what, Chad? I'm pulling for Vanderbilt. I hope they win. I was really pulling for them to win that game.
Just let me say this, James. I love James Franklin. I talk about him on Twitter constantly. He's
that's your Twitter picture.
He's your guy, right?
He's my guy. But getting up in front in a press conference and saying how much he liked the Georgia fans, how they were getting there early, stayed late. Vanderbilt fans, have put a lot of people. I know my dad's been 60 years of just misery. I mean, it's hard for people to just go to games right now when you're not winning all of them. So I just wish he would back off trying to get on the fans for not coming. I mean, it's going to take them winning some ball games that they're not supposed to win to get them out there.
But Saturday was a great example of one of those. I mean, that was a game that you shouldn't have won, but you had an opportunity with just a couple of plays left to steal a victory at home against Georgia, who realistically now is competing for the SEC East title.
Right, with the talent disparity, it's pretty good.
So I understand where Franklin's coming from, because in my mind, as someone that appreciates Vanderbilt being here, they're the closest team to root for, and so I don't like to see them do bad. But to me, that was a game that they just should have had. I mean, all said and done, at the end of the day, all the mistakes that was done on Vanderbilt's side, Georgia didn't play a great game. With that being said, Vanderbilt had an opportunity at the end of the game to win it, and they did not. And that's where I'm coming from, is to be getting to the next level, you've got to get some of those under your belt.
And you got to get some better players.
Well, that comes with beating the teams you're not supposed to.
Well, James Franklin wasn't accepting it because after the game he tried to fist fight. He was hot. What was? Give us the quick. Him and a defensive coordinator from Georgia getting at it after the game.
Yeah, I mean, I sit 7 rows up right behind the Vandy bench, and linebacker from Georgia, number 36, I can't think of his name. He had the interception, but late in the third quarter, he kind of gave the, I don't know if anybody watches wrestling, but gave the suck it sign to the Vandy sideline. And after that last play of the game, they tackled Barden in the game. He was over there and was jumping up in Franklin's face, and Franklin probably told him a few choice words and told him to go away. And coming from Franklin, he said he was walking across the field with his security guard, and he was looking for Riggs. He was going to tell him what happened, and then he found the defensive coordinator and told him. The defensive coordinator didn't like it, but that's a guy that's on steroids and gave the choke sign to the Florida kicker last year. So I think I'm going to take James Franklin's side.
I agree. I'm pumped for Franklin. Don't take crap from anybody. You think if Bobby Johnson was there, he'd have been like, "Oh, horse feathers on that."
Bobby Johnson would have been asleep.
Hey, Shane, let's roll to the next game. I'm sorry for holding us up.
A team that was asleep is the Florida Gators, scoring a abysmal 6 points. I mean, I just do not see how Auburn can keep coming away with these wins, and then they keep moving up and up in the rankings. I mean, they're top 20 in the BCS polls. At the beginning of the season, I didn't see where they could rebuild, and they just keep finding ways to win. I mean, Florida had some opportunities here, I thought. I didn't get to watch the whole game and didn't stay glued in front of it because, frankly, I don't like either team a whole lot. But it's hard to watch two teams you don't care for a lot, But, I mean, Auburn, give them credit. They keep finding ways to win.
All right, I'll tell you what Auburn is. Auburn's the fourth best team in the West. That would be the best team in the East, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they've beat South Carolina at South Carolina. They won this week against Florida, who, Florida's in disarray too. I mean, they're not as in bad a disarray as my program that I support, but they're trotting guys out at quarterback right now that aren't ready to play. And I never was a big Brantley fan, as Drew was with his Heisman campaign early in the year. But the young freshman that was would have had his opportunities last 2 weeks and got injured, and the guy they're trotting out there right now, and then they're trying to throw their tight end in there, and Florida's gone from what is normally one of the best offensive teams in the nation to right now they're not very good on offense.
Which one of their running backs is hurt?
Demps is hurt.
That's a big factor.
The fastest man in college football.
That's a big factor too. I thought Florida would still. I think they still do have a lot of talent. They just, it's young talent, and some of their talent's hurt. But it's coming from a Vandy fan, I wish we could play them next week before Brantley gets back. So, but
here's my thought, and I'm not going to try to jab at Vanderbilt again, but I will say Vanderbilt and Tennessee, take Tennessee last year, we can make all the excuses in the world about having 13 men on the field and beating LSU and then winning the Music City Bowl, but Tennessee is not a team. Tennessee is not a team that expects to win and knows how to win. Auburn, after the season they had last year, I think they expect to win, and I think that attitude carries them quite a bit. What I was saying about Vanderbilt is maybe the breaks don't go your way because you're not expecting the breaks. And Auburn, opportunistic team, great coaching staff. I think they've got just a hodgepodge of crap at quarterback right now, but they're making do. They've got 2 good running backs and a good defense, and they're 5-2 and playing a tough schedule.
I did not see any of the game because I was at the Vandy game. But how much did Frazier play at quarterback for Auburn?
They threw 1 pass.
I think they just need to put that kid in there.
He was 1 for 1. 1 for 1. His good stats: 1 for 1 for 0 yards.
Did he have any rushing stats?
Yeah, but he had 8 carries.
The good, if I would have
rushing.
started him in fantasy today, he would have done better than Rex Grossman. So I should have started Auburn's Frazier.
Yeah, Brett, the
got 0
only
points.
person in the history of fantasy football to start a quarterback 2 weeks in a row and have negative points for him.
Thank you, Rex Grossman.
And Kyle Orton, don't forget him from last week.
See another Florida guy.
And I think, Auburn also has a pretty good run game, really. I mean, Dyer's very serviceable back there. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of yards, but he carried the ball a ton, 23 times for 73 yards. And then Frazier, he carried it 8 times. That's his biggest threat right there. Is he's able to run the ball, and he's done it effectively the last, I guess, 3 games I've sat and watched him play.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's Auburn's strength on offense. They're not going to wow a lot of teams with their passing ability, and get a quarterback that can run. I mean, clearly that's their MO from last year was letting Cam, throw the deep ball and then run. So get a guy out there that can run, and that might be the best chance for them to win.
I mean, I don't know how Auburn's struggling offensively. I mean, I thought Malzahn was God.
I mean, I think even God needs good pieces to. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Sorry, I don't want to offend anybody on there. I was just trying to say that I don't think he's got the pieces. He doesn't have the talent. There's a talent gap.
That was just a shot at Malzahn.
Hey, and just I don't want to sit here and quote stats all night, but Auburn holds Florida to less than 200 yards total offense in that game, and Florida still, even with the quarterback hurt, they've got some talented kids. I mean, and you got to give hats off to Auburn's defense right there for really shutting the door, and they only put up 278 on their own. So that was 2 offenses that really didn't get much done, but 2 defenses that played good, played very good. Auburn, up 7-6 in the fourth quarter and put the 10 points up to take that 17-6 win. But I looked at the Auburn schedule just like you guys did at the start of the year, and was struggling to get to 6 wins and bowl eligible, and here they are.
We'll go back and
5-2.
review. I'm fairly sure one of the guys, might have been Drew Young, gave him a good shot to win a few games. So.
Oh, don't remember that one.
Brett, let me ask you a question. You're a baseball player. You played all the way up to college. If you're think about your college baseball coach. If your college baseball coach berated an umpire the way Muschamp does, the official, what would happen? Would he be? I mean, what would happen?
Well, in baseball, obviously, you can get ejected and thrown out of the game.
He'd
Which
be banned for the season if they did what he does. Why do they allow that?
We had our college alumni reunion last weekend, and
did you get ejected from that?
I did not get ejected, but I had probably one of the greatest coaches of all time in junior college those first 2 years, and he did get ejected and threw a base out in left field, Lou Piniella style. So just want to throw that out there. But I think I get where you're about to go is just some of the stuff that football officials put up with that you're not going to get away with in a baseball game, or a basketball game. You get a technical or thrown out as well. So
I'd like to just see him he needs to just get ejected. I've never seen a first-year coach that he rips people like I've never seen official get ripped.
Right.
And his players too.
And Shane, I have to agree with Shane. Shane's mentioned a couple times I think Shane's just looking out for Muschamp's health and the defibrillator that they need on the sideline. But he's a feisty dude, Shane.
I believe they have an intern. She's running around the back, just holding that right behind him, waiting for him to fall.
The paddles, the shock paddles,
Yeah.
bring him back.
They're ready.
Look at the gel they put on them and everything.
No, that's a good win for Auburn, and they're sitting at 3-1. Obviously, it's still everybody's talking about the 2 juggernauts in the West, but Auburn has represented themselves very well so far this first half of the year.
Well, what they've done is they've put themselves in a position for a good bowl game. Now they're not going to be able to compete for the West, but to come off the national championship and have a respectable season is what they've been able to do and grow from there. Another team that we talked about Ole Miss and their injuries, but I think they wanted that game to be over at halftime. I saw tweets out there that football needs to put in a mercy rule because Alabama was just doing anything they wanted to, however they wanted to, and just took control of that ball game really from the very beginning. I think Ole Miss had one or two good plays that they had a spark, and then Alabama said, wait a minute. They kind of teased them. They're like the lion with the little mouse between its paws, beating it back and forth, thinking it had a shot, and then, it's lunch.
I think they wanted to be over at halftime because they were within 10 points. It was 17-7 at the half, which you're right. Alabama did control that game. But Alabama poured it on and scored 28 points in the third quarter. And I don't know what we need to touch on this, really. Trent Richardson, just a ridiculous, PlayStation-type stats, 183 yards and 4 touchdowns. Alabama's very, very good. Ole Miss is very, very bad.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we'd like to talk about how good Alabama is, it's hard to really see how well they are when you play a team that's so inferior like an Ole Miss or some of the other competition that Alabama's had the first part of the season. Thankfully, Alabama's road's going to get a little tougher, and we're going to see some good competition. And so
a tough team coming in this weekend.
Yeah, all the way from Knoxville, right?
Yeah.
You've got them slated to win, don't you, Drew?
You wait for those picks, guys.
Right. Now, Chad's woodshed, Alabama took Ole Miss behind it. And the funny thing about this, Ole Miss scored the first 7 points. 7-0 Ole Miss, 2.5 minutes in the game, and then Alabama reels off 52 straight. But when you get outgained 615 to 141 in total offense, that's a mismatch, and that's all this game was. It was men against boys, as they say, and that was a good butt whipping. And Alabama, Lord, they're just good. And I go back and forth weekly on who's better, them or LSU, and Alabama really put it on Ole Miss this week.
All right, we're going to keep moving on then and look at Drew. I'll let you pick. You want to do South Carolina, Mississippi State, or LSU, Tennessee?
We can sandwich in that Alabama and talk about LSU now. That's a tough game. LSU's a good team. I thought Tennessee hung with them in the first half, and I would have had an argument with anybody to say that Tennessee couldn't have beat them with Bray and Hunter after watching that first half. Now the second half was a different story altogether. That team just they wore the defense down. They only had like 3 drives in the second half. They were 9-minute drives, 8-minute drives. And when you do that to a team, you break their will. So great team, wonderful defense. The Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, he's a loser. I got nothing for him.
No love for him.
I don't think he played that good. He tweeted out there talking about Derrick Rogers not going to have a big game, and Derrick Rogers I thought played pretty well. He had 70-something yards receiving, and most of his catches were on him, and he was breaking tackles. I think this kid is a very good football player. He needs to spend a little more time trying to be a good football player and a little less time trying to be the Honey Badger.
Well, a couple of times I noticed that he went to strip the ball and missed the tackle.
That's exactly what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with an opportunistic football player. Take Ed Reed. He's made a career out of it in the NFL. But against a team like Alabama, a missed tackle where you're trying to go for the home run play, it can cost you.
That's 6 points the other way.
Correct.
In an Alabama type.
And he just runs his mouth the entire game. So I got nothing for him.
So is he taking lessons from primetime in that sense?
Yeah, he's no primetime.
No, Tennessee's just at a point right now, and it's a shame to have to say it, but LSU did to Tennessee what I can. It seems like it's been 20 years now, but what I can remember Tennessee teams used to do to other teams is, first half, Tennessee hung in there and fought and did what they could and still didn't get some breaks, and they're down 17-7, LSU could have named the score, I think, in the second half. And you hear this a lot in college football, and I'm not trying to just say what other people say, but I think Tennessee, like a lot of college football teams, we've talked about Vandy in this way before. If you just break down their best 8 or 10 players against the other team's best 8 or 10, it's not that big of a discrepancy. The problem is you need 40 or 45 people to field a successful football team at any level, and Tennessee's nowhere near as good as an LSU after that first 8 or 10 players. Yeah. So it was the woodshed had another participant, and Tennessee got taken behind it, especially in that second half, and Chad was leading to you. From a Tennessee fan, it was obviously frustrating, but I don't really know what else Tennessee could have done. They just weren't as good as LSU, nowhere close.
I mean, LSU's just too good. They got speed just all over the field. I mean, everywhere. Linebackers, linemen run like corners out there. It's just ridiculous. But as a person who does not like Tennessee very much, I got to see the wrong half, I guess. Because the first half, I was just waiting for LSU to just explode. They just didn't do it. It's like, I think I tweeted something about, I think Les Miles just gets bored. I mean, Jarrett Lee's out there just dominating. I mean, not dominating, but controlling the game and taking them right down the field. And he puts Jefferson in, and they have to kick a field goal. Or
I'll tell you this: we've talked about the Jefferson impact against Tennessee. They were a better team with Jefferson in there. There's no doubt. Tennessee could not stop that dynamic, and that if Les Miles can control,
but he can't pass. He was 1 for 3. I mean,
he didn't need to. He ran for 10 yards every time he needed something.
Against Tennessee, he didn't need to pass.
Well,
against
sure.
Alabama, he's going to have to pass.
Well, you don't know that. I mean, you're telling me right now there's no chance that Jordan Jefferson can be successful running the ball against Alabama?
Not like he was against Tennessee.
Well, I'm not saying he's going to run for 300 yards against Alabama. I'm just saying that is a dynamic that you can add when you have to prepare for one quarterback that can throw the ball and another one that can run the ball. I think that you'll see Jordan Jefferson playing in more games to come.
Right. One thing I'll touch on too as a Tennessee fan, and this is not really agreeing or disagreeing with Shane or Drew. I know last week y'all went back and forth a little bit on the what impact Tyler Bray's injury would have on Tennessee. And let me be the first to say that with Tyler Bray, Tennessee does not win this game. I will say Tyler Bray goes better than 6 for 20 with 2 interceptions. Matt Sims did the best he could do. He's a serviceable backup. I think Tyler Bray's 3 times better than Matt Sims. But even saying that, let's say Bray was 15 for 25 for 250, Tennessee still loses that game, 3 touchdowns minimum. So a little bit of agreement with Drew that there's no doubt Tyler Bray's a better quarterback. A little bit of an agreement with Shane in that I don't think if friggin' Peyton Manning had come back with a good neck, Tennessee still doesn't beat LSU last week.
He was happy to be in the booth, though.
It must have been.
Now, I will say there was a bright spot to me for a Tennessee side was that you saw some resemblance of a run game start to appear.
Well, they had positive yardage, which was a start, since we've been negative in both the SEC games. So
and
yes,
LSU,
I would agree.
They've got a great run defense, and Poole. I mean, he wasn't stellar. I mean, he didn't go over 100, but I mean, there were times even in the second half that he was able to get chunks of yards, and from a Tennessee standpoint, that's not been there the last couple games either.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. You hope that the offensive line finally says, "Hey, we can't keep playing like sophomores and freshmen," and they step up and start opening some holes. I don't know. I think that Tennessee's run game, while it was better, I'm still not going to be jumping up and down excited about what's to come. I think that the sad thing as a Tennessee fan is we're gonna get drubbed again next week, and I just I can't get too excited. Hopefully, I just saying let's just forfeit this one and get everybody healthy or something.
Please tell me he's gonna quit wearing those pants on the sideline.
You don't like the pants?
Well, not when you're getting hammered week after week.
I'm down with the pants. You got to get away. He's wearing like brown bowling shoes. The pants I'm down with. I'm an orange fan. I know you're not, but can we not get some black Adidas or white and orange stripe Adidas? But I don't understand the brown church shoes with the orange pants.
He said that his wife won't let him wear it. That she said it looks stupid. I agree. I think he ought to wear something different. But I don't. He can wear what he wants to wear.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean,
I think it's
once again, that's it, man. I figured it out.
Orange pants.
They don't like opposing fans don't like the color orange. It's just it's kind of an offensive color.
I don't like the color, but I don't mind him wearing it. I want to see you all bring out the black jerseys. I thought they looked good.
I agree, man.
If my kid's lucky enough to go to UT on a full scholarship and I've got to root for UT, I want to try to make an amendment where you've got to wear those at least 3 times a year.
Just abolish them. Just go to black and white.
There you go. I would be perfectly happy with that at that point. We'll move on. The last game, I think, ended with a little controversy, wouldn't we say?
Yes.
For the gambling community, sure.
There we go.
Yep. I think that was on mute.
Is that your waitress, Drew?
That was my waitress in here in my mansion.
Is that Siri? Oh wait, you don't.
That's the new iOS 5 or whatever.
Yeah, well, you've got to have the new 4S phone to have Siri.
So I don't think it's on a Droid phone.
Yeah, it's not on my iPhone.
I hired
either.
her away from Apple.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. So what are we talking about? South Carolina Mississippi State game here.
Yeah.
That was just an inept offense right there. The big news we've already covered. Lattimore getting hurt. Fairly impressed with Mississippi State. I didn't think they would. I thought they would lose this game, and they really made a game out of it. The big news though is Steve Spurrier shaving points at the end of the game and not covering the spread. Taking a safety. Yeah.
I think I was yelling at the TV. I know it's like we play this picks on the website, and we also got a little thing going at school, and it's just like you're yelling at the TV. They're -3.5, up 4, you're fixing to win that game, and hell, he runs out of the end zone, gets a safety, and you don't win that game. It's just ridiculous.
Would y'all agree? I mean, obviously I was pumped when I saw it, but gambling aside, isn't that the right play though? I mean, just for no other reason than just
he could have just ran around and then taken a knee
at the 1 or something. yeah. I guess you look like you're worried more about the spread. I guess if you take the knee at the 1 and then fall down the end zone.
Vegas were just. You had some people going nuts. Some people were just throwing stuff.
I saw somewhere on Twitter it cost Vegas $30 million, just that one that without the spread there. So it was that heavy the other way, so that it made it a $30 million
South Carolina
difference.
then obviously.
So I mean, but really there was a lot of going on at South Carolina this week. I mean, am I not correct? We haven't talked about Garcia getting dismissed.
Oh yeah. The golden boy, the 15-year wonder, is finally gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, Shaw is the guy no matter what now at South Carolina.
And he lost his running game.
Welcome
to the SEC, Connor Shaw.
And apparently Spurrier banned about a 30-year sports writer veteran from the paper there and just would not hold his press conference because that guy had wrote what he felt like was an inaccurate article about 8 months ago, which that just so happened to be on the same date that that they were going to discuss Garcia and get dismissed. So I think a lot of people thought that was a little bit of a...
I believe, what was his name? Ron Morris, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
A little bit of a smoke screen, and not have to worry about talking too much about Garcia. But, I mean,
even
seemed a little juvenile to me.
Well, I mean, he's a reporter. He's allowed to give his opinion. I mean, that's what reporters are there to do. I mean, that's what we do on a podcast. And I kind of take a little offense at that is, I'm here to tell the news as I see it, and if that's the way I saw the news, you shouldn't be able to say you're not allowed to listen to these press conferences anymore. You're not allowed to ask these questions anymore. You're denying me my ability to do my job just because you don't agree with me. That to me, that's wrong, and I don't want to get off on that soapbox too much or go down that avenue. But that's the wrong way to create a diversion.
Shane, slow down, man. We don't want to get banned from any future South Carolina events, so. Let's play this one cool, man.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Spurrier can keep his visors as far as that goes.
All right, I don't know. I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. It's just I think he's just whining a little bit and just trying to wield his power too much.
Chad, you may be able to answer this. Is that Bruce Ellington that's playing receiver for them? Is that the point guard?
Basketball player.
All right. Yeah. That's actually what the thing was about was that Ron Morris, I believe we said is the guy's name, had written an article about Spurrier approaching Ellington to play football. Spurrier denied, saying
basically
that
poaching him to play, yeah.
Right. But after I did see him catching 4 or 5 passes the other game.
And running the Wildcat.
I was asking Drew if that was the guy that shot about 49 threes a game last year.
I think that Spurrier did handle it wrong, but I mean, if he's a Hall of Fame coach, I think he can do what he wants to. He can talk to whoever he wants to.
Well, those guys are doing their jobs in there. I mean, he didn't go in there and talk bad about his family or wife. He just wrote a story 8 months ago.
But he doesn't have to talk to the press.
No, he doesn't have to, but at the same time,
yeah, you do. You're a coach. You have to talk to the press.
Well, I guess you don't technically have to. You can just walk in there and say, "I'm never speaking to y'all." But at the
why
same
do you
time,
think
you're going to make it
I'm
harder on yourself?
He's
a Hall of Fame coach. He don't care.
The SEC has a weekly call where reporters are on there, and the coaches have to be on there. So you're telling me they don't have to talk to reporters?
No, I guess. I mean, you're going to tell. Why couldn't you just say, "I'm here to not say anything about my team," and just sit there and not talk? I mean, I guess they could fire you on the spot. I'm just being a little hard-headed, saying
they
I don't.
Fine you.
I don't think
probably.
I can see Saban going to these things. I mean, again, we're just getting a little ridiculous. My point was, the point I was getting to was, I think this was a little bit of a coincidence that Spurrier chose the day that the day after Garcia had been dismissed,
minutes after he was dismissed,
to make this big hoopla, which was really not that big a deal. And if it was, why didn't he talk about it in the last 8 months? So I don't, I was just, I guess getting in the legal rights, does a coach have to speak to media? I don't know. But the point I was just making was 8 months ago, whether the guy wrote an article or not, it happened 8 months ago. It was somewhat of an odd day to discuss it the day after your 17 times suspended quarterback finally gets kicked off the team.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. You ready to move on to picks?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Well, Drew, kick us off here. You've got the
Yeah, I've got the games. We're going to start with a wonderful one. We've got Kentucky playing against Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State's not a what is it, BCS school? Not a BCS school. What is it, bowl subdivision?
Something.
Yeah, they're not
CB.
one. So as of right now, we don't have a spread on it. We're probably about to pick them. Jacksonville State's pretty good in the OVC, and
They are undefeated in the OVC.
and Kentucky is Kentucky. I'm telling you, just watch out for them. Kentucky's not good, so this could be a game that they struggle with.
I tell you what we do here with no spread. Let's just pick two to win. Surely to God, Kentucky can beat Jacksonville State. Shane, I don't know if I'm going to go out on a limb and just start us off and say I'm picking Kentucky to really buckle down and come home with a sound victory against the. What is anybody know the Jacksonville State mascot? I got stuck
State
there.
Woodchucks. I
I'll
believe.
find it out before y'all get done picking, but I'm picking Kentucky to win this game.
Is Jacksonville State the same team that beat Ole Miss last year, or is that completely different?
That is the same team. They beat them in overtime.
I'm taking them to win. They're going to win that game.
Surely Kentucky can beat them. I mean, if they can't beat them, then Joker Phillips is. I know his seat's maybe getting a little warm. I don't know how hot it is. Maybe
I think it's getting real warm.
it's getting real warm.
Yeah.
Is this his second year?
Second year, but
He's been there for a little while.
But yeah, he was
Offensive
assistant.
coordinator.
He was coaching waiting for years. So
Yeah.
I mean, behind Rich Brooks and a long time. I mean, he played at Kentucky. He's everything about him is bleeding blue. Now I will say that Mitch Barnhart was asked about that at Big Blue Madness, and it seemed like he at least said all the right things on the camera to say that he's behind Joker. And they still got a lot of football left to play, but the seat is getting warm there in Kentucky, up in Lexington. But I don't think that he's been such a great person as far as coaching the offense, and Mitch even said you don't forget how to coach an offense overnight. It's just that he doesn't have the tools right now in place to do that. And so you're going to have to give him a little time to get those back.
Right. I'll go ahead and take Kentucky to win.
Shane, who are you taking?
They've had a week to prepare with that bye week for Jacksonville State. It's a big game for them. I'm gonna take the Big Blue Nation.
Brett, you got their mascot yet?
They are the Gamecocks.
Oh, the Gamecocks. I'm taking the Gamecocks to win this one. Jacksonville State upset.
Well, not that anybody cares, but Jacksonville State has beaten a really quality schedule. They've beaten Tennessee Martin, Georgia State, Eastern Illinois, Murray State, and Austin Peay, and lost to Chattanooga by 3 touchdowns.
Oh, they lost by 3 to Chattanooga?
Yeah.
Rebound game for the Gamecocks. All right, on to a better game here. We're gonna jump to it with I'm gonna let Chad kick this off. We've got his Vanderbilt Commodores 9-point favorites at home against the Armed Forces of Army.
Which one would that be?
The Armed Forces of Army.
Playing them all together,
Yep.
the all-star team.
Coast Guard.
I've been going to Vandy games since before I can even remember, and this is one of the few home games I'm actually going to miss. I'll be in Las Vegas with a couple of y'all, having a good old time watching it in there in the sports book. So
Will that be on the TV, do y'all think?
it's on ESPNU, so I would assume.
Sorry about that. Just wondered.
Vegas, baby.
Army. Say what you want to. Army's a tough team to prepare for. They run the triple option. I've kind of watched a couple of the games. They play on like that CBS Sports channel that's on DirecTV, and they got hammered by Miami of Ohio, and then they beat Northwestern. So explain that one to me. But
Northwestern's not a bad football team either.
I'm gonna go ahead and take Vandy minus the 9. Jordan Rogers, my God, will hopefully be starting. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the Doors.
If the Vandy fan says they're going to win, I'm going to go with him. Anchor down. James Franklin fights.
All in.
Fights. What's Bobby Smith or what is he still their coach? The Bobby Ross or whatever. He fights Bobby Ross after the game and
Ross
is
not
kicked
their
out of the
coach.
country for fighting the Army coach.
Well, Armory's coming into the game 2-4, and they've had some pretty big losses there against some not great teams. I mean, San Diego State, Northern Illinois. So the way Vanderbilt's playing right now, I'm gonna give them the 9. I think they're going to win by 2 touchdowns.
Brett?
Yeah, I'm going to take Vanderbilt, and for no other reason than I didn't know Ball State had a football team, and Army went on the road to Ball State and lost by 27.
Yeah,
so.
Ball State had a football team. That's
Blaine Bishop.
Yeah, Blaine Bishop.
This is true. Well, I thought they had disbanded it, but I don't have any breakdown of Army. I agree with Chad in that I hate playing any of these Navy, Air Force, or Army, but I think this is the worst of the 3 service academies. So Vanderbilt covers that 9-point spread.
Moving right along, I'll kick-start it off here. Arkansas playing at Ole Miss, given 16.5. That is not enough. Arkansas covers that 16.5 pretty easy. Tyler Wilson is playing well. They got that offense rolling, and Ole Miss didn't show me anything. And those big injuries, I'm sure that's going to come into play here. But now they hadn't shown me anything. I think that Arkansas rolls.
I agree. I mean, Arkansas.
You love Arkansas. So.
I do. I mean, I still think that that last game against LSU might hold more weight than people are giving it some consideration right now, and it's going to take some things to fall into place. And I've already talked about that before on the podcast. But that offense is something else, and I'm going to say that they're going to win that one handedly. I mean, what did Ole Miss lose by? How many points total?
45.
45 against Alabama, and Arkansas might not be as good defensively, but they're definitely can score offensively on there. So I'm gonna take Arkansas as well.
Yeah, I almost picked Ole Miss just 2 seconds ago, but I'm going to be boring, go with you guys, and pick Arkansas. I think this one does have to do with just the attitude and effort that Ole Miss bring into this game. It is at Ole Miss. It's 16.5. Is that right?
Correct.
And a month ago, Ole Miss played what is now a hot Georgia team to I think a 10-point game or 12-point game. But at the same time, Arkansas, I could see a 48-3 Ole Miss just gives up and quits type game too. So, we've touched on it. Ole Miss isn't very good. Arkansas is ranked 9th in the country, and I think offensively is going to put up lots of points. Really, this will come down to, if Ole Miss scores 17, 21 points, then Arkansas will have a tough time covering that. But at the same time, after that 2-minute run around, I'm going to take Arkansas.
I just can't believe that line is that low. I mean, I think I know I've already said we're going to Las Vegas. If I swear if it's still at 16.5, I'm taking everything I'm taking down there, and we land Thursday night, I'm going to put it on Arkansas. I think if it was 30, I would take Arkansas.
That's pretty big.
I mean, Ole Miss is just awful. And I mean, I've seen Arkansas can score on.
Don't discount that win on the road at Fresno.
Yeah, it's a big game. Fresno's they're back. I'm definitely taking Arkansas. Just too many weapons, and Ole Miss doesn't care.
Shane, lead us off with your second favorite team, the Big Orange, where your daughter is committed to already. We've got
That's just a verbal commitment.
That's a verbal commitment. With no LOI yet. We've got Alabama at home against the Big Orange. Biggest spread I can ever remember as a Tennessee fan, 28 points. Alabama giving 28 to the Big Orange.
That's a lot of points. I mean, as much as I dislike Tennessee, and I have a lot of hate in my heart for the Orange. That's just a lot of points for a Tennessee team that they had a lot of fight in them Saturday, but I just when you're the number 1/2 team of the nation, Alabama at Tuscaloosa, I'm going to just have to take Alabama until they prove me wrong, no matter how many points get put up on the board.
So, surprise!
Imagine that.
Picking against Tennessee, taking Bama. Brett?
The Tennessee team that went down to Tuscaloosa 2 years ago lost 12-10 to the eventual national champion. I don't think this Tennessee team is near as good as that team, and this is going to sound ridiculous because Alabama did win the national title in 2009. I think this is a better Alabama team. I feel like a traitor loser once again, but for the second week in a row, I'm picking Tennessee to they're not going to cover that spread. And I agree. Dean Fulton, my brother-in-law, who's been on the podcast before, he asked tonight, "What's the biggest spread you ever remember Tennessee, being underdog?" And I remember they were 18-point underdogs at Florida back in like 2001 when they actually went down there and won that game. They were 4-touchdown underdog, and if nothing else, I can deny all I want how far we've fallen, but we're almost 30-point underdogs, and that's tough to swallow. But what's even tougher to swallow is that I'm again going to take the opposite side. So I'm taking Alabama minus 28. Good gracious,
Chad.
I am. I'm taking Alabama. The only reason I would think about taking Tennessee is because, Saban probably doesn't want to embarrass Dooley, since Dooley was on Saban's staff. And in the LSU-Alabama game the following week, 29th, is that right?
The 5th.
it's the 5th actually, 2 weeks away.
They'll both have a bye week.
Before. He may want to take some guys out and just to give him a little bit extra rest for the bye week. But I'm going to take Alabama.
All right, we got 3 Bamas. I'm definitely taking the Big Orange. That's way too many points. That's 4 touchdowns. Do I think that Alabama can beat Tennessee by 4 touchdowns? Absolutely. Do I think they will? Not a chance. I'm taking the Big Orange. Tennessee, I think, can score 10 or so points on them, and I don't see Alabama scoring 38 points against Tennessee.
Clay Travis on Twitter said it's the second biggest line in UT history. Florida was minus 30 in 2009.
There you have it.
That's a lot of points.
One thing that I didn't mention that's kind of in the back of my mind, that there's that relationship with Dooley being on a former staffer, but Saban's also got something to prove. If LSU comes up and puts wins by 31 up in Knoxville, Alabama's going to want to at least do that in Tuscaloosa. Because it's all about keeping up with the Joneses today. And if LSU's beat Tennessee by that at Tennessee, Alabama's going to say, well, we've got to at least beat them by that at home.
One thing I'll say about Saban, and I'm not a huge Saban fan, I don't know if I guess I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Shane. I don't know how much he buys into that. I think he's a hard-nosed football coach. He rubs some people the wrong way, but I haven't seen anything from him that's a classless type deal. And if they beat Tennessee 21-0, that's still a rout and a shutout and a win. So I just think they're more than 4 touchdowns better than Tennessee right now. So I don't think they're going to have to worry about matching what LSU did. I just think that the way Tennessee's going to have ridiculous breaks go their way to even be in the ball game. So. I disagree a little bit with that, but I understand what you're saying too. If Alabama comes out and wins 14-13, then I think you see some shifting in some of those polls. But if they come out and win 28-10, don't cover the spread, but still are handily ahead of Tennessee, they're going to stay up in those top 2.
You could be right. Just with the BCS being so finicky about how you win, that you as a coach, no matter how classless or classy you might be, you still have to have that in the back of your mind. And that's just my other 2 cents I'm going to throw in there.
All right, last game on the docket. This is the game of the week, according to CBS. We got LSU in Death Valley, giving 22.5 points to defending national champion Auburn Tigers. Brett?
I'm going to take the road team this time, and I think that's just a tribute to Auburn and how they'll fight. And the only thing that scares me a little bit is, I picked Auburn to cover at Arkansas, and they got it put on them. And I think LSU's better than Arkansas. But at the same time, it's human nature to look ahead, and that might be the only glimmer that even Tennessee would have to keeping one close with Alabama. And I think Auburn's got a better chance to beat LSU than Tennessee does Alabama when you're talking just pulling an upset. And again, it would be a monumental, ridiculous upset, but the 20th team in the nation getting over 3 touchdowns, that's a lot of points. So I'm going to take those points. So I'm going to take Auburn to cover that 22.5.
Chad?
I'm also going to take Auburn. I think their defense has been improving since early in the year. Ted Roof is, he was the head coach at Duke for a number of years. I think they'll just. I just don't see LSU being able to run up and down the field like they did against Tennessee in the second half.
I agree. I'm taking Auburn. Just don't. 3 touchdowns. Having win by more than 3 touchdowns is too many. I think Auburn is a better football team than they're getting credit for. I think Auburn covers that 22.5 pretty easily. Shane?
Well, I've got to try to make up some ground on Brett over here with these picks. It seems like we've pretty much gone the same way on most of our picks. So, if for any other reason than that, I might have to go with LSU. But, looking at the schedule, you were talking about LSU's going to go into a bye next week, so they can give it all they've got and know they've got an extra week to prepare for Alabama. I don't think they'll have to save anything back there. Unless Miles, unlike Saban, is not afraid to keep it on the throttle. And for that reason, if I got to give a valid reason besides going against you, Brett, that reason right there, those two things, they've got a bye week to get healthy, and he's not afraid to keep pushing on the throttle and going and going and going.
That's all of them, Shane. We only got 5 games in the SEC this week.
Got to love those bye weeks for those teams.
Yep.
So, well, that's going to wrap up the pick 'em part of our podcast. I want to again close this out with throwing it around the room. Chad, we're going to start with you, so be ready. Like we do every podcast, we end the podcast with open mic, whatever you want to talk about. If there's anything you want to do, if you want to give out your Twitter handle, if people want to follow you personally, I think you were all happy you got a couple extra followers as the podcast started right before we hit record. So if you want to throw that out there and just whatever's on your mind, it's football, non-football, basketball, non-basketball, sports, non-sports, whatever's on your head.
You can find me on Twitter at Chad Caldwell 24. My Twitter is locked, so I will have to accept you before I can. And I do that for purposes of being a high school teacher, so I don't want my kids reading what I post on Twitter. Don't follow me if you don't like Vandy, because I'm pretty much posting on that 24/7. Went to Memorial Madness Friday night, and like I was telling a buddy of mine, I've never seen that much talent on that floor at once from a Vanderbilt team. It's one of those seasons where I wish that there was no regular season. They could just go right to March, because that's where that team is going to be defined by. And maybe the coaching career of Kevin Stallings will be defined this year.
Brett?
Yeah, just in honor of our pilgrimage west Thursday evening. Hats off to Southwest Airlines, get us there safe. But we got a big group of us going out to Las Vegas. Tooting my own horn a little bit, and I'm going to go with the backwards jinx. I'm going to talk about how well I've done, and hopefully, and not be scared of that. But Drew didn't update the standings, but I believe we were talking about today. 37, 15, and 1 against the spread. I'm going to take that 70% winning percentage. I'm going to walk in the Mirage Sportsbook. I'm going to break out my wallet, and I'm going to put it on them. And, if anybody wants to, jump in line behind me, you guys can feel free. But
so you're saying you're going to put your money where your mouth is?
Absolutely. I'm saying I got something for them this week. I'm sure they're going to take it back from me in other avenues and venues, but
Sportsbook's not one of them.
The sportsbook, I'm about to come get some. So, but looking forward to doing it. You can follow me on Twitter. Handle is at Big B Young, and I am also in the educational field, and my Twitter is not blocked. So feel free to read and enjoy and do with it what you will.
Drew,
I'll make a quick comment. This is pretty funny. I have to give credit to my father on this one. Big Country Young. He goes around and says, Drew, opening March or not Midnight Madness, Kentucky had 23,000 in attendance.
sold out in less than an hour.
Memphis had about 20,000 at the FedEx Forum. Vanderbilt, packed house. Tennessee had about 300 people in the stands for their opening practice. Conzo Martin they said the entire summer, anytime they've practiced, they haven't run offensive sets. So go back to the Kevin O'Neal days of just slow down basketball. Hopefully win a few games in the 40 to 38 range. Man, I already miss Bruce Pearl. Wish him the best. I love you, Bruce. Sorry, everything that happened to you.
Also have heard, Drew, that Gene Hackman will be the assistant coach for Conzo Martin this year. So a lot of defensive slides and
Set shots.
7 passes before you shoot.
Yeah, I saw the broom was used during practice. You got to shoot over the broom and granny shots and the third coach is the shooter's father. What is shooter?
Dennis Hopper.
Shooter. The late Dennis
back from
Hopper
the
is the other coach.
The only
Man,
problem is there's no Jimmy Chitwood.
no Jimmy Chitwood. Man, that guy was a good basketball player. I don't. Why is that shot gone? The running set shot. Where you hike up one leg when you do the shot. That needs to come back. Maybe that's what Tennessee's secret weapon will be. And guys, Google or go to YouTube and look for Skylar McBee. It's a joke. I mean, that guy. First of all, what he looks like. He's now has a mustache. He's got the most country sounding voice ever.
Porn stash.
Yeah, he's got a porn stash. I mean, this guy's. He looks horrible, and I get so excited because he's pretty much our number one go-to option.
He can do whatever he wants. He did make the biggest shot in the last 5 years.
Keep living off that
basketball.
one shot 4 years ago.
Beat number 1, Caldwell. Get over it.
I'll throw it out there at Drew Young 20. You can follow me. I don't know how to lock anything. You can also, if you come to my house, my internet's not locked. I like to share with people. My neighbors, anybody listening, Dave Turco and Sally and I can't remember his name, Andy. Just feel free to use my internet. Just don't look up any kiddie porn or anything like that. So at Drew Young 20, Twitter, good stuff.
That's a beauty. We're seeing a picture of it.
Show the people on the camera there.
Well, hope that's in focus for you. Our camera operator is behind the mic, so there's not going to be anybody to go in.
He's asleep on the couch over there.
To zoom in or
Shane,
something.
wrap us up, man. This has been about 2 hours of just horridness.
Well, I was just going to say we passed the 1:30 mark, so we're not quite to 2 hours. I do want to thank everybody for listening in. If you're still listening, we appreciate you taking it all the way to the end and listening to our picks. Don't forget to find us on SECSRT.com. Tell all your friends. Go like us on Facebook at SEC Sports Roundtable. Our Twitter. I'm having the worst time talking over the last. It's progressively getting worse. Our Twitter.
Irish whiskey's gotten to you, Shane.
There we go. You never know what's behind the McDonald's cup. That's why there's a lid on it. The Twitter is SECSRT. My personal Twitter is P. Shane Bailey. Unlike Drew, mine's unlocked. So you're welcome to follow, listen, tweet back, whatever floats your boat there on that side. But, I'll just close by saying, Big Blue Madness was a success. Kentucky's got a lot of high expectations again this year, like always. So we've rebuilt, have a lot of have some pieces there that were young from last year that are staying on board. So a lot to look forward to in the Big Blue Nation now. So thankfully, basketball season is upon us. We'll be talking more about that. Look for a second podcast coming up. Hopefully we'll get another one out this week that will be focused more just on the basketball because there's so much to talk about in that arena that we're going to try to keep it off of this for right now, at least till we get some real games that matter. But that's it for us here on the Roundtable. So thanks so much for listening.